So, anyway, I hope you're having a good night. I had a pretty decent day. Pretty boring, though. I feel like I don't do anything anymore. Like, I try to have hobbies, and they're just kind of like boring to me now, I guess. So, I need new hobbies. I'm trying to get back into knitting and drawing like I used to. But some days you just feel like super lazy, don't you? And it's just like, I could work out or I could just lie in my bed. Guess which one I chose today? So, 1408. This one is, I don't want to say it's like one of my favorites, but it's something that I quite enjoy. Um, I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters when it came out, but I watched it again after it came out on DVD, and I really liked it. And then I was thinking about it the other day. I was scrolling through TV tropes, as is my wont, and once again, it was linked to a page I was on. I was like, oh yeah, 1408's a thing. So I read through the TV tropes list, and I was like, we can make a short film talk out of this. And this one is pretty short, partially because I had issues finding a lot of information about this movie, the production side of things, and I trawled through all of my usual sources and they just had nothing. So that's part of why, and the other part of why is because I want to watch The Lazarus Effect with you guys. I have not seen it, but I've heard that it is fucking terrible, so I figure why don't we enjoy this together? There is stuff on my keyboard. What is this? So, yeah. Okay, so 1408. It's a 2007 movie directed by Michael Hofstrom with writers Matt Greenberg, Scott Alexander, and Larry Karaszewski. It is based off the 1999 short story by Stephen King, which appeared in Everything's Eventual, one of his anthologies. And it's one of the good, very few good adaptations of his work. I might be in the minority, but I didn't really like Christine or Cujo. And so this one, plus the original Carrie, plus The Shining, which he hated, of course, because it wasn't a very faithful adaptation, and It 2017, and this. These are the four that I think are the best ones. Let me know in chat if you disagree with me. This was inspired, the book was, or the story was inspired by this guy named Christopher Chacon, who investigated haunted places. I got quite a few ghost hunter vibes off of this as well, but this was before ghost hunters like became a huge thing. So he's got like all the equipment, like the, was it the EMP meter or something, where you can like wave it around and see if there's like ghosts whispering and shit. And he's got like a black light, and he's got his tape recorder and all of that. So yeah, like I said, not much to be found for the making of this. I assume someone read the short story and they're like, oh, Stephen King, moneymaker, sweet. So no fun behind the scenes trivia today, but I have some miscellaneous trivia. So 1408 adds up 1408, 13, and all of the numbers mentioned in the film, the year the hotel opened, the address of the hotel in Lexington in New York City, and the creepy phone call he gets that Chance numbers at him, all of those also add up to 13. The theatrical cut, which is not the cut that I use today, but theatrical cut runs exactly 104 minutes and 8 seconds. They wrote 4 different endings to this. They have the theatrical one, which if you haven't seen 1408, by the way, you can watch it, but we're going to be pretty thorough in this. And I don't know, it's one of those movies that I would recommend watching, but for the purposes of this stream, you don't really have to, but you should. Maybe at some time when you have the time. Because it is a fun, well, not fun, but it is an interesting movie, and it is definitely worth a watch, in my opinion anyway. But there's 4 different endings, like I said. There's the theatrical cut, where we'll get to that. I'll explain the endings later. Personally, I prefer the director's cut ending. That was the original ending before they put it in front of a focus group, and the focus group was like, no, happy ending. So, there's also like the two that are like minor variations of the director's cut. The synopsis and everything, by the way, that we're doing today is all going to be based off the director's cut. I have not seen the theatrical cut probably since I watched it on DVD that time. So, it's going to be on Prime for another week, the theatrical cut. So, on the 31st, I think, is when it leaves. So, I guess if you want to watch it, now's the time. Budget was $25 million and it grossed $132 million worldwide. It has a 79% Rotten Tomatoes score, 65 on Metacritic. I guess they didn't get the movie or whatever. I personally don't really see how it would be a 65. I would probably rate it like an 8.5 out of 10. Oh, which reminds me, I should probably log it on Letterboxd. Cast list. John Cusack as Mike Enslin. This is his second Stephen King adaptation. The first one was Stand By Me, way back in the day. I think he played one of the bullies. Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson as Olin. He has half the poster dedicated to his face, and he's billed second, and he's in the movie for literally 15 minutes, maybe. he's not a minor character, but like in the grand scheme of the movie, he's definitely not a main character. We've got Mary McCormick as Lily Enslin. She was shot almost entirely above the waist throughout the whole movie, which you can tell if you know, because she was pregnant. And yeah, Tony Shalhoub randomly is in this movie for like maybe 5 minutes as Mike's agent, Sam. I just put in my notes, I couldn't remember the name of the character because he was literally that unimportant. And I was just like, Tony. So, let's take a look at the trailer first. Okay.
You're not going anywhere. You're staying right here with us.
Daddy. Everyone dies.
When Mike Enslin lost his daughter, the afterlife became his obsession.
You probably want to hear all about our haunted history.
But after years of searching, he no longer believes.
So you're saying there's no such thing as ghosts?
I'm saying I've never seen one. Nothing would make me happier than to experience a paranormal event.
Gerald Olin, manager of the Dolphin.
If I can just get the key to 1408.
In the 95 years of the hotel's existence, there have been 56 deaths in 1408.
56.
No one's ever lasted more than an hour. The first victims to Kevin O'Malley.
Cut his own throat.
Do not stay in that room.
This is it. Hotel rooms are a naturally creepy place. It does have the vague air of menace. Nobody lasts more than an hour. You're gonna have to try harder, Olin! It's not that what I'm seeing is not real. It just ain't as real as it seems. Holy. Get a hold of yourself. O'Malley.
Based on a story by Stephen King.
Did you call the cops?
They're in 1408. The room's empty.
I'm gonna die.
I warned you about 1408.
Daddy. Don't you love me anymore?
1408. Directed by Michael Hofstrom.
So that was the trailer. It is it makes the movie look a lot more actiony than it actually is. Like there is action in it, but mostly the room just fucks with him in a rather subtle way and, changes the weather and all of that stuff. But I guess that wouldn't make it look as interesting. So let's begin. Mike Enslin is driving in his jank-ass truck to a small B&B that is supposedly haunted. The couple who own it are super nice, and they're just so tickled pink that he's there. They're like, oh, we love your books. We've read all of your books. And blah, blah, blah. Would you like to see the pamphlet? Would you like to have the tour? And he's just kind of a dick to them. He's just like, no, can we do this in the morning? Like, I really don't care. I just want the key. Please just give me the key. And, he's kind of rude, but, they kind of take it in stride because they're just such nice people. So he goes up to his room, which is in the attic, and he takes out a lone cigarette behind his ear, puts it in the ashtray unsmoked, and then immediately, raids the minibar. Mike's a bit of an alcoholic, and most of the movie you can see him drinking alcohol of some sort. The next morning, he narrates about the room into his omnipresent tape recorder, which he spends the entire movie basically talking to. That's another thing that they wouldn't put in the trailer, is just how much of it is him talking to himself and kind of, not really exploring, but just kind of kind of putting down his wandering thoughts, and a lot of them are kind of disjointed, and then he gives himself pep talks and stuff like that. So he drives home and he's narrating, and he decides he's going to give them 5 skulls instead of 6 skulls because fuck them. And he says something about the landlady's chocolate cake. He obviously didn't really think much of his stay. And we cut to a bookstore where he is doing a book signing for all of 4 people. Mike is a top 10 books sort of guy. He writes top 10 books about haunted locations. So he's got haunted hotels, haunted lighthouses, stuff like that. And he has a tiny ass fan base, but they are ravenous. It's kind of funny. But so he is doing a really sad Q&A, and they're asking him hey, what's the most haunted place you've ever been? What about ghosts? And he says that he doesn't really believe in ghosts, but he always checks just to make sure. So he's doing this signing, and people are coming up, with the top 10 books, and then this woman just kind of slides this novel toward him, and it is a novel that he wrote way back in the day, and he's very surprised that she even has it. And she tells him, this was a really compelling story. Why don't you write more fiction? And he's just kind of given up on fiction because of his tragic backstory, which we'll go into presently. But, he tells her, it was a different time and I was a different person. And people keep bringing up the father character in this book as being a real bastard. And she asks if it was based on real life, and he doesn't really answer because that's kind of personal. So he goes home to his fancy beachside house in sunny California and decides he's going to go surfing, which apparently is a hobby of his. So he paddles out and he's kind of, surveying the terrain. There's a plane with a banner that's flying over the head. And he is distracted and a huge ass wave just hits him and he goes under. He's flailing around. He's starting to drown and can't really get his bearings right, so he can't swim up to the surface. But he does get washed up on the beach, and someone runs over to check on him, and he's like, dude, are you okay? But he's fine. He coughs up the seawater. So later on, he goes to the post office to pick up his mail, which there is a lot of mail. And he kind of has a mini, it's not even a conversation, but the guy at the post office, who's super friendly, says, hey, how you doing? You were gone for a long time. How's the book coming? I just read your last one and it's really good. And Mike's just and then leaves. So he's going through his mail at this diner, and a lot of it is There's pamphlets for hotels around the country that are supposed to be haunted. He's got a couple of very important looking, like, you owe the government money envelopes that he just tosses to the side. And then he gets a birthday card from someone named David, which comes up again very briefly. And then he gets this postcard. And the postcard shows the Dolphin Hotel in New York City on the front, and on the back, just the words, "Don't enter 1408." And of course, he's intrigued by this, so he calls the hotel. And he's like, "Hey, I'd like to book room 1408." And they say, "That's not available." And he said, "I didn't say the date." And so he just, like, starts throwing out dates, like, Tuesday, next Tuesday, a month, a year from now, and they just keep saying it's unavailable. And he's getting more frustrated and intrigued. So the concierge ends up hanging up on him when he is persistent. So he goes to the library and looks through those old microfiche things that have, like, the tiny slides of old newspapers. And he's looking for anything he can find about this place. And he comes across several articles in newspapers, basically, oh, I didn't put the music back on. There we go. He basically comes across all these articles about suicides that were at the Dolphin Hotel, like, mostly people jumping out of windows. So he calls his agent, Tony Shalhoub, and the agent's, he's very much, like, he's the kind of, like, brash, like, way overexcited and very, very fake sort of New Yorker. He talks shit, and then he's like, "Hey, buddy," like that mean girl high school bully shit. And so he says that what Mike has sent him so far is very spooky. And Mike's like, "Hey, did you manage anything with the hotel?" And he says that he got a lawyer for $400 an hour who says that there is a law on the books that if a hotel guest requests a certain room and the room is occupied, they must rent it to them. So he decides he's going to use that to his advantage and does make a reservation at the Dolphin. He asks if Mike's gonna, if he's sure about coming to the city. And he's kind of like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, after everything that happened, I wouldn't think that you would. Are you going to get in touch with Lily, who is his ex-wife?" And he says, "No, not really." Mike arrives at the Dolphin sometime later, and it is a very fancy building, and it is tall. It is got this luxurious lobby. It's huge. Everything's marble and gilt and, like, red velvet. And there's a lot of very wealthy looking people hanging out. There's a poodle. And he goes up to the front desk and he tries to check in, but the computer says, "Check with manager before checking this guest in." So she is like, "Okay, 1 minute." And someone goes and gets Mr. Olin, who is the hotel manager and Samuel L. Jackson's least sweary role outside of fucking the prequels to Star Wars. And Olin is very charismatic sort of man. He's very charming, and he's basically the perfect hotel manager, if you know what I mean. Like, he's got service down to a T. And he's offering Mike, like, "Hey, we can get you anything. We were thinking of upgrading you to the penthouse, and I can get you reservations. I can get you, Knicks tickets, floor side." And Mike's just like, "No, just the key." And Olin takes him to his office. He says that, he offers him this cognac, which is a 1939 $800 bottle of cognac. And the label translates from French into 57 deaths, which isn't brought up, but is a cool little bilingual bonus detail. What are you doing? My God. Sorry, my cat is fucking psycho today. So he says that no one's ever lasted more than an hour in this room, and Mike is just like, "Yeah, sure, okay." Like, he believes fully that Olin is just trying to hype everything up and, kind of sell it But Olin is dead serious, and he says, I really don't want to deal with you going into 1408, not because of the hotel's reputation, not because I'm afraid for your personal safety, but I just don't want to clean up the mess that you're going to leave when you inevitably die. Mike counters with info about the last suicide recorded at the Dolphin. And, he's just spitting out, like, oh yeah, so-and-so stayed here in such and such a time, and they died by hurling themselves out the window. See, I know stuff too. And there have been 22 natural deaths that he doesn't know about. So there's 34 suicides slash, directly leading to your own death accidents. And so there's 22 natural deaths, like people having a heart attack, or someone having a stroke and dying. Someone drowned in their chicken soup. And Mike didn't know about these, so it's 56 total deaths. And the 57 deaths label kind of comes in, implying that Mike is going to be the 57th. Olin tries his best to bribe him with the information that he has in this very thick folder, like everything you could ever need to know about this place and everything that's happened there. And also says, and you can have the cognac, that's on the house. And all you have to do is not take this room. I will give you stuff, like, anything you want or need, I can get it for you, just do not take this room. And Mike, accepts the bottle, and he enjoys a sip of the cognac, and he's like, I'm staying. And you just see Olin going, God damn it! He gives him the file regardless, and it's full of crime scene photos, and these are gruesome. These are graphic ass photos of people who have slashed their own throats open, or hanged themselves, or decided to yeet themselves out the window. And Olin narrates each photo in very gruesome detail about how the person killed themselves and what the fallout was like and how they found the body and all of that. But Mike's not having any of it, and he eventually wears Olin down and gets the key. And I'm just gonna show you a clip.
Listen, I stayed at the Bigsby house. I brushed my goddamn teeth right next to the tub where Sir David Smith drowned his whole family, and I stopped being afraid of vampires when I was 12. Do you know why I can stay in your spooky old room, Mr. Olin? Because I know that ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties don't exist. Even if they did, there's no God to protect us from them, is there?
So I can't talk you out of this.
I think we've reached an understanding.
Very well. Come with me.
Most hotels have switched to magnetics. An actual key. That's a nice touch. It's antique-y.
We have magnetic cards also, but electronics don't seem to work in 1408. Hope you don't have a pacemaker.
General manager claims that the phantom in room interferes.
I have never used the word phantom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Spirit, specter?
No, you misunderstand. Whatever's in 1408 is nothing like that.
Then what is it?
It's an evil fucking room. Please.
Monsieur en ligne, pouvez-vous lire et signer le papier, s'il vous plaît?
Ah oui. Très bien.
Why don't the owners just close the room?
The Usador Corporation prefers to pretend there's no problem, just as they pretend there's no 13th floor.
The room. It's got to be filthy. I mean, the sheets haven't been changed in, 11 years?
No. We're very professional. 1408 gets a light turned once a month. I supervise the maids work in pairs. We treat the room as if it's a chamber filled with poison gas. We only stay 10 minutes, and I insist the door remain open. but still. A few years ago, a young maid from El Salvador found herself locked in the bathroom. She was only there for a few moments, but when we pulled her out, she was...
She's dead.
No, blind. She'd taken a pair of scissors and gouged her eyes out. She was laughing hysterically. You're fluent. Well, this is where we part company. This is as close as I get to 1408 unless it's that time of the month.
See you tomorrow.
Mr. Ensslin, please, don't do this.
Ooh. So Mike gets out of the elevator and he kind of absentmindedly wanders down the hall towards 1408. And he's looking through all of these crime scene photos and is just kind of not really paying attention. But he notices when he bumps into something that he's gone around in a loop and the elevator dings open as if saying, like, this is your last chance, bro. Like, don't do it. But he ignores it and he finds 1408 and he lets himself in. So the room itself, which is not really a room so much as it's a suite, like there's a living room and then there's a bedroom and a really nice bathroom that I totally want. It's like white tile, it's gorgeous. And it's just very unremarkable. Like any nice hotel would have a room comparable to it. It's got like the generic hotel art, which all of it is like randomly placed and there's like no theme to it. Like if you've stayed in hotels, like you kind of know what I'm talking about, where it's just like you get something and it's like the definition of art, so you put it on the walls and you spend like $25 on it. But these are like oil paintings, so it's nicer, but it also has no overlying theme. There's a Bible on the side table, all of that stuff. And Mike is not impressed. So he narrates into his tape recorder, basically, like, this is a very boring room. I don't know what Olin was, like, trying to do, telling me that this is an evil room. It sure doesn't look evil. I guess the prices of the minibar are pretty evil. And he just kind of relaxes and chills on the bed, and all of a sudden the radio just kicks on and we've only just begun. I can't remember the name of the band that did that. You're gonna hate this song by the end. It plays like a lot and in various like degrees of distortion. So he's like, and then he's like, someone's in here, like, to pull this prank on me. Good job, Olin. So he like tears through the room, like going through the closets, trying to like logic his way through this, and he's like, okay, well, I went and laid on the bed, and then the radio kicked on, so I investigated that, and that means he's in the living room, and there is no one in the living room, obviously. So later on, like a few minutes later, he decides he's going to like go through with his equipment and check everything, so he takes out his black light and shuts off all the lights. There are blood stains everywhere. Like, there's a stain on the carpet that he notes in his ramblings, but there's blood all over the walls, there's blood all over the floor, there's even blood on the bed cover, and that doesn't seem like it should be hotel policy to reuse bloody ass duvet covers, but maybe that's just me, maybe I'm extra. And he is kind of unnerved by this, as you would be. At least I hope it's blood. I know other things come up on the black light as white, but we're gonna assume for safety purposes it was blood. So he notices that the thermostat is not working. It's stuck at 80 degrees, which is just sweltering and inappropriate. So he calls down to the front desk and they say, okay, we'll send up maintenance. And he's like, wait, really? And they're like, yeah, of course. So he does all of the black lighting and stuff while he's waiting. Notices that the ship picture, there's a picture of a ship in like a stormy sea. He notices that it's crooked where it wasn't before, so he straightens it out. And the maintenance guy arrives, but he refuses to enter the room. He's just like, no, but I'll tell you how to do it. Like, he walks him through fixing the thermostat, and As soon as it's done, Mike is like, "Oh, sir, you are a gentleman and a scholar," and he turns around and the guy is just gone. I don't blame him. So Mike pours himself some cognac and he relaxes. Then the radio comes on again. And this time the clock changes. It goes from the time to a 60-minute countdown with no explanation. And Mike still thinks that Olin's behind all of this somehow. And he's looking around and notices that everything is dead silent. There's no traffic sounds, there's no ambient noise, there's nothing. So he opens the window in the living room and he kind of leans out to make sure that like traffic is still there and stuff. And everything is just, quiet. And he comes back into the room and the window just slams shut of its own volition right on his hand, and it looks so painful, like, ow. And, he runs to the bathroom with his bloody ass hand and runs it under the water, but the water suddenly turns, like, it blasts scalding hot water on him, like, so hot that it turns into steam. And he manages to get the tap off. But We've Only Just Begun starts playing again, and it's a little more distorted this time. So he rips the clock out of the wall, and the song stops, but the countdown doesn't. So he kind of is starting to get an inkling that maybe there is something about this room that Olin has not really touched or fucked with. The phone rings in the living room, and a woman tells him that there's a 10-minute delay on the sandwich that he ordered. And he's like, "I didn't order a sandwich." And so she starts going through, like, the side options in case he doesn't want french fries. And she's just ignoring him while he's protesting that he didn't order anything. And then says, "I'm hurt. Can we call an ambulance? I think I need to go to the hospital." And she's still, like, talking about a la carte options and the menu. And then he yells at her, like, "Hey, are you listening to a word I said?" And she just goes, "I will not let you speak to me like that, sir." But yeah, he hangs up on her because this is getting nowhere. And starts packing because he's done. He's like, "Okay, I got it. I get the point. Let's go." And he packs his stuff and goes to the door. And the door is, like, sealed shut. It will not budge. So he thinks that, maybe it's locked. So he takes out his key and the key breaks in the lock. So he takes out a knife and he starts to pick the lock and he gets it open and then pulls, and it just does not work. It breaks off the doorknob instead. So he's trapped there, essentially. He screams out the window for help, trying to find literally anyone who would listen. And he sees that there is someone in a flat that's... Why am I going in and out of focus, camera? He sees someone in a flat who's, like, right across the road from him. And they're watching TV. So he starts, like, waving to get their attention, like, "Hey, I need help, call the police, call anyone." And he sees the guy is mirroring his motions. So he starts, like, checking it out. He's just, like, moving slightly, raising his hand, and the guy's mimicking everything. And he grabs the nearby lamp off the table and puts it under his face. And the guy does the same thing, and he sees that it is his own face. And, dun dun dun. And all of a sudden, this woman comes up behind his doppelganger and stabs him to death. And he turns around, and we're jump scared by a woman who's screaming and running at him with a knife. He manages to fight her off, and then she just disappears. So there's that. He throws the lamp in order to try and get someone's attention, but it just kind of falls halfway down the building and then blips out of existence. This happens a couple of other times too, when, like, something falls out of the window or jumps out of the window. He hears his dead daughter's voice calling out for him, and he starts freaking out. Like, this is the point where he's realized that he is in deep shit and it's his own fault. And so he, like, huddles in a corner talking to his tape recorder, and basically like narrating like, you're going insane, you're losing your shit, bro, like get it together, you're tired, when was the last time I slept, let's walk back through my day. And he comes to the conclusion that Olin has spiked his cognac somehow, which makes him feel better, because if it's drugs, then, you know, he's not going crazy. But he kind of looks up, and in the vent there's something that looks like a spy camera, and he's like, oh, Olin like planned this whole thing, he's filming me, ha ha ha, gotcha. But then the TV comes to life and it starts playing old home videos of him with his family, his daughter Katie and his ex-wife Lily, and you know, they're very happy together. She made like a who is ugliest of their family list, and he starts crying, of course, and then he sees a black and white flickering ghost. Like, flickering as in, like, you know, those old like movies where the film wasn't preserved properly, so like it's jumpy and staticky. And this guy sort of looks at him and then climbs and jumps out the window. Then a woman who is in color, but like it looks like colorized old films, like unnatural color, and she's in the ugliest outfit I've ever seen, so it must be the 50s, and she looks at him and then jumps out the window. So he's freaking out, obviously, and he hears a baby crying in the next room. We saw earlier there was a young mother and a baby in a stroller who was crying in the lobby. So he's like, oh, thank God. He's goes over and he starts pounding on the wall like, hey, I need help. Please call the cops or anybody. I'm trapped in here. And the baby's just crying louder. And he's like, please, kid, shut up. And the baby's cries grow louder and louder and more distorted and high-pitched until it's like literally like hurting him to have to listen to it. Like, he's on the floor with his hands over his ears, just crawling, trying to get away from it. And eventually it stops because he throws a chair at the wall. And he then hears a man kind of crying quietly in the bathroom. So he goes to investigate, and it's not the bathroom anymore. It is this institutional looking room, and there's an old man in the wheelchair who is his father. He's been institutionalized for dementia before the events of the film. And Mike goes over and he's, you know, saying like, Dad, is that actually you? Like, I'm sorry I haven't visited you in months. Just kind of like telling him like, you know, shit's going down. I don't know if you're real. And his dad just kind of slowly turns his head toward him and he says, as you are, I once was, and as I am, you will be. And then he gives him the creepiest fucking smile, and suddenly we're back in the bathroom. Mike starts questioning whether or not he's actually experiencing this in real life or if this is an elaborate dream or nightmare. As if to sort of counter this, the room, one of the walls in the room starts cracking really badly, like about to collapse cracking, and blood starts pouring out of the cracks because of course it does. It's a 2000s movie. And so he's not very impressed by this, and he decides that he's going to go to more extremes to try and get out of the room. And he goes over to the front door, which has, as all hotels do, it has like a floor plan of the where you can find the emergency exits and stuff like that. And he sees that there is a window in the next room, so he starts to count steps to where he would hit the wall and calculate like how long he would have to shimmy across the ledge that's directly underneath his window to get there. So he gets out of the window and tells his tape recorder, if I fall and die, it was an accident. The room did not win. And so he shimmies across, but he realizes that there's no window and he should have hit it by now. And we kind of zoom out, and it's just this immense brick wall with only his window visible on either side. So he's like, well, shit. and goes back into where his window is, and we get jump scared by the woman who jumped earlier, who is about to jump again, and she blips out of existence like the lamp did. So he's hanging off the ledge because he's so freaked out. Here, there we go. He's hanging onto the ledge because he fell, and he manages to drag himself back up and in. The window starts to shut again, and this time he's quick, so he manages to, like, Indiana Jones roll his way off across the window and into the room before it slams shut. So he goes to consult the floor plan again, because what the fuck, and he sees that it's just the room 1408 in the middle of this black expanse. Like, there's nothing except this room. And he realizes that the bedroom window isn't there anymore. So he, for some reason, he decides he's going to play back the tape, and he hears his own voice saying there is no window in the bedroom. So that's a thing, and it's the room starting to subtly fuck with him again. He goes into the living room, but it's a doctor's office now, and he and his wife are hearing very bad news from the doctor. Katie has cancer, and they're not sure if it's treatable, whereas Katie is lying in a bed pretty close by, and he's holding his wife, and she's sobbing in his arms, and Katie just looks sick. And then the lights go out, and we hear Katie's voice again, and jump scare with the lady with the knife. There's quite a few jump scares in this movie. I'm not a fan, but they work, I guess. So he manages to, like, fend her off again, and she disappears, and he is just so shaken up by hearing his daughter's voice. So he tries to use his cell to call his ex, but of course the cell phone doesn't work because electronics for some reason don't work in 1408, except for his laptop for some reason. He manages to connect to the proto Wi-Fi of 2007 and does a video call to his ex. A video call because it makes for better storytelling. And she's very surprised that he's calling her because they haven't talked in over a year. And he left her shortly after Katie died and basically didn't even say goodbye. He just pieced out of their marriage. And so she's like, okay, what do you want? And he's like, I need you to call the cops. I'm at this hotel in the city on Lexington. And she's just like, what are you doing here? Like, you didn't tell me you were coming, and you haven't talked to me. Like, I haven't seen you. So what the fuck are you doing here? And she's very concerned with this more so than him telling her, like, please call the cops. Please just call somebody and tell them that I'm in room 1408. But she gets a phone call from a work colleague, I guess. And he's just begging her at this point. She's like, I have to call you back. And then she hangs up the phone, but she's still talking to Mike. And she's just ranting about how he's in the city, and he's just like, please listen to me. But the call breaks up, and then the sprinkler system kicks on, thus ruining the laptop. So his last communication with the outside world. He, at this point, is desperate, so he decides he's going to examine the vent in the room to see if that's a possible escape route. So he unscrews it and takes it down and climbs in. And we can hear the baby crying again, so he crawls towards that. And he goes over these, like, spaces where you can see down into the room. And he sees the woman with the baby. She's holding the baby. You can only see her from the top down. And you hear her say, hey, Mike, can you get me some help? And you hear Mike Enslin's voice going, I'm going out to get cigarettes. And she looks up, and it's Lily, younger version of Lily, holding Katie. And this is just freaky. And he goes into the next, like, space, and it's his dad, obviously before he had dementia, yelling at him in a garden about how he's leaving his wife and child so he can go off and do this work It's obviously early on in his career before he became like a big deal. And he's yelling at his dad, and his dad is obviously very disappointed and mad at him for abandoning his family essentially to chase ghosts. And he and his dad make eye contact, and then Mike moves on. But the vent system has become a total maze. It's impossible to figure out like the geometry of the whole place. And so he just kind of keeps crawling and picks a direction and comes across a dead body. And this dead body has been there for quite a while. It is really nasty looking, like props to the special effects team. And all of a sudden it reanimates and is groaning and reaching out for him. And he's like, no, and backs the fuck up. He's like crawling away from it, but it's gaining on him. It is surprisingly fast for a desiccated corpse. And by the time he gets to 1408, he's almost caught, but he kicks the corpse head so hard that it explodes. And then he just falls back into the room. So he needs a drink now and goes to the minibar.
Listen, alcohol.
I was just checking to see if the accommodations are exceeding your expectations.
You know goddamn well they are! What do you want from me?
No. What do you want? What do you want, Mr. Enslin? You sought this room.
It was a job. I was doing the job.
I beg your pardon.
My job. I'm a writer.
Oh, that's right. You don't believe in anything. You like shattering people's hopes.
Oh, that's bullshit!
Why do you think people believe in ghosts? For fun? No. It's the prospect of something after death. How many spirits have you broken?
She's in so much pain. What do you want from me? Huh? What do you want from me? You... I want my drink!
I want my drink! Also, I was just checking on YouTube, and I apologize to anybody watching on YouTube. It still says that I'm talking about Dead Silence for some reason, even though I changed the stream information. So, this is not a Dead Silence stream, sorry. So, he opens the Bible. He basically says, okay, you win, I'm gonna go pray. And he opens the Bible, but all of the pages are blank. And he is kind of treated to another scene of Lily and Katie. Katie is lying in bed, and she's very frail, and she's obviously dying. And she asks her mom, as they're reading a storybook together, you know, are there going to be people where I'm going? And, you know, she's told by Mike and Lily that she's not going anywhere, but she's accepted the fact that she's going to die. And she's like, Dad, everyone dies. Like, I'm just dying a bit sooner. So Lily kind of comforts her by telling her about heaven and how beautiful it is and how she'll love it. And Mike just kind of forces a smile and nods. And Katie looks like she's comforted by this. So we cut to her bed being empty, and Lily and Mike are screaming at each other, and basically he says that she would have held on and fought, but Lily filled her head with like talk about the afterlife, so Katie gave up. And that was an incredibly cruel fucking thing to say. And then he goes and gets cigarettes again. So he's a sobbing mess at this point. And he hears the fax machine ring, because back then we still had fax machines. And instead of a fax coming out, it's Katie's nightgown. And so he kind of holds it, like making sure that it's real, and it smells like her. And he just holds it. And when he comes out of the bathroom after looking at himself in the mirror, the room is very foggy and frosty and ice cold. There's snow on the ground, and the thermostat reads -5 degrees. So he lights a fire using a very fancy lighter that I want, and uses the photos and playing cards as fuel. And he's talking to his tape recorder again, and he's rambling on about the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, and then like going through the circles of Dante's hell and concluding that he's in the ninth because it's so cold, which I guess that says something about him because the ninth circle of hell is reserved for traitors. So that's a neat little detail as well of how he thinks about himself. But the laptop comes on, and somehow, and he's very excited by this, he like runs over, and Lily is calling him, and she says that the cops are at the Dolphin. They're literally in room 1408 and there's no one there, which freaks him out. And she tells him, like, I'm coming down there, I'll be there in 15 minutes. And he looks over at the countdown clock, and it's less than 15 minutes at this point. And he tells her, that's not going to be enough time, do not come here. Like, under any circumstances, don't come here. And there's static, and then, you see on the screen is Mike in the little box saying, come here, I missed you so much, and it'll make me feel so much better if you're here, and all of that stuff. And he reassures her, and she's convinced, so she's gonna head out to the Dolphin, and Mike is screaming no at the laptop, like, no, do not come here. And she signs off, and the person on the screen just kind of gives him a wink and then leaves. So the room at this point begins to rip itself apart, literally. The walls are splitting, the floor is splitting. It's just, falling down dilapidated. And there's a thunderstorm raging inside. The paintings have all changed from being like a woman and her baby, or lords going on hunting trip, and the ship. They're all horrifying now, like, the dogs are attacking the lords. The ship is about to sink. Like, it's pretty messed up and pretty cool looking. And the ship painting bursts and just floods the room with seawater. And it's literally flooding, like, to the roof. And Mike's trying to struggle against it. And then he sinks and starts to drown. And then he kicks to the surface, and he's back on the beach with the airplane flying overhead. And the dude comes over and he asks if he's okay. Everything is literally exactly the same as the day he almost drowned. And he questions, like, was that real? Did I get out? He asks other people, am I out? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But he's questioning if that was just like a nightmare of a dying man. So he wakes up in a hospital bed with Lily right next to him, and she doesn't really understand what he's talking about, but she flew from New York to California just to take care of him because she's still listed as his next of kin. So they spend time together. She drives him home and they talk. She asks him why he left, and his answer is because every time I looked at you, I saw Katie. Which I hear is a pretty common reason for divorce after a couple loses a child. And that's pretty sad. So he takes her out to dinner, and she kind of tells him that maybe 1408 is a manifestation that his subconscious came up with to sort of work through his grief. By putting it in like a scary place, that something he has to overcome. And he kind of glances over and he sees a waitress passing by who looks exactly like the woman who jumped out the window, but he blinks and then she's like a different random woman. And Lily is telling him, like, you should write about Katie, like, you should work through this by writing again. And this will be very cathartic for you, and I think it'll help you start to heal. And he kind of is like wishy-washy about it. He's like, maybe, I don't know. And anyway, we cut from that to him going to the post office, collecting his mail as usual. And he has the same exact conversation with the clerk who has just read his book. And ooh, it's spooky shit, man. And he goes to the diner like he did before, and he's checking through the mail. And it's all exactly the same, except the postcard is missing. And so he goes back to the post office and he's looking for it, and the clerk says he'll keep an eye out. He goes to the library and looks through old newspapers again, and he finds the articles that he found before, but instead of the dolphin, it says like random places like entrepreneur jumps off of a bridge instead of jumps out of a window. So he's kind of, he's kind of conflicted about whether or not this is real, whether 1408 was real or whatever. It was like a really freaky dream. Anyway, he's writing a book about 1408 when we next see him, and it's just coming out like this is the best work he's ever done. His agent is absolutely delighted, and they're gonna get like a huge book deal, and the manuscript is almost finished. So he goes to the old age home to visit his father. And his father is almost catatonic in that he just is staring off into space. He doesn't really recognize or acknowledge Mike's presence. And so Mike is just talking to him, which as someone whose grandmother had dementia, like that's what I would do with her too. I would just talk to her regardless of whether she like acknowledged me or not, because they do hear you. But he's telling him like things are going so well in his life. He and Lily are talking again. He's writing again. And things are just looking up for him. And his dad kind of looks over at him and he says his name, and Mike just holds him and cries. So he has finished the manuscript and he runs to the post office very excited. He says, I need to get this out overnight. And the guy says, sorry, the post office is closed. And there's workers in the background who are like renovating the place. And all of a sudden they start swinging sledgehammers at everything. The glass, the counter, the walls. And as the walls come apart, you see the brick wall and everything else and the door of 1408. He never got out at all. Which, shocker, anyone could have seen that coming, but whatever, that's a nitpick. He's screaming in rage and just really like this. He's at the point of like no return. He's on the brink of insanity, and he sees that he sees a panel open in the wall and there's fire in it, and he just goes over to see what the fuck else could be happening, and it's his daughter's coffin that's on fire. So he screams and he's raging. And he sees a door that's just randomly appeared in the middle of the room. So he goes over to it and he's like, just go ahead and open it. Like, at this point, yeah, you're going, of course there's a door. Just go ahead and open it. I'm not going to fall for this. So the door opens and it's just this infinite black void filled with noise. Like the fire and brimstone preacher from when he was driving to the inn in the first few minutes of the movie. And his daughter's voice and everyone else's voice, and it's just this cacophony. And the door vanishes, but Katie's in the next room, and it's actually Katie. She's calling out for him and saying, help me. And she walks over to him as he's denying that she's Katie over and over again, and she's asking, don't you love me anymore? And he sees her little feet are bleeding. Katie's probably 10. And he just kind of breaks down and accepts that she is Katie, and he holds her and he cries and he tells her how much he loves her, and she just says, they won't let me stay. They won't let me stay. And he says, we're never going to be parted again. This is our second chance. And then she dies again in his arms. And this completely just destroys him. And he's crying that it's not fair for him to lose her twice. And she just, it's really sad. And then the radio kicks on, and suddenly her body just bursts into ash. At this point, there's not much else that the room can do to, freak him out, because this is like the worst possible thing it could have done. The song is more and more distorted, and he trashes the bedroom the rest of the way. Like, it's trashed, but he's still, like, throwing debris around and smashing things. There's 36 seconds left on the clock, and he kind of collapses. His energy is spent, and then the room counts down to 0, and it goes back to normal, like pristine. And the phone rings as the countdown restarts from 60. It's the front desk. She basically says, hey, Mr. Enslin, you can relive this hour over and over and over again, or you can take advantage of our express checkout system. And a noose appears, which is very nice service. Thank you, room. And he kind of ignores it, and then he's walking toward the bathroom, and there's a noose in the bathroom too. He looks over and he sees that there are 2 graves in the floor. One is his daughter's, and one is empty, and that is his. And he looks in the mirror and sees his reflection hanging itself. And, you know, he's just like, Jesus Christ, I'm not going to be doing that, though. 1408 asks if he's ready to check out yet, and he says, no, I'm not going to do it your way. And he hangs up, and then the phone rings again, and the room tells him, by the way, your wife is going to be here in 5 minutes, and we'll send her right up. He says that you can't have her, and then it starts chanting random numbers and phrases at him, which is kind of freaky. It's like, 10, all of your friends are dead. And yeah, so this is a longer clip. This is the climax of the movie. I'm going to play it in its entirety, and if YouTube gets mad at me, that gets mad at me, whatever.
Are you ready to check out, Mr. Enslin?
No. Not your way.
I understand. By the way, Mr. Enslin, your wife just called. She'll be here in 5 minutes, and we'll send her straight up.
She's not involved. You can't have her. I'm done arguing with you. I'm gonna end this.
5. This is 5.
Ignore the siren. Even if you leave this room, you can never leave this room. 8. This is 8. We have killed your friends. Every friend is now dead.
I've lived the life of a selfish man. But I don't have to die that way. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. This may not all be real, and I may not even be real, but this fire, that's gotta be real.
Go to hell!
Get out onto the street. Out of the doors and onto the street, please. Everyone stay calm.
What's going on?
I don't know, lady. This might take a while. Something must have happened. Thanks.
quiet, you bastard.
Please, you gotta help me. No, help me. My husband's inside. My husband. You gotta help me. You gotta help me. Please. Please, I need
What
to
floor?
get up.
What floor?
14th floor, 1408. Mike Anslin, please, come here.
You're wasting your time. We're here to do the job. And we don't rattle. The decor is in tatters. And the staff's surly. But on the shiver scale, I award the Dolphin 10 skulls.
Never kill more than you can eat.
Daddy, everyone dies.
YouTube got mad at me for the clip that I downloaded from YouTube. How dare I? So that is the theatrical version, or the director's cut version, where Mike dies. In the theatrical cut, he does not die. He makes it out of the room alive and safe and wakes up in the hospital, and Lily's there and they reconcile again, and she takes him home, and they listen to his audio tape together, and she hears Katie's voice and she realizes that he was telling the truth all along. But this is the director's cut version, so we can't have that. So Mike dies, and we cut to his funeral. Olin drives up very discreetly in this really nice black car, and he tries to give Mike's effects back to Lily, the stuff that he left in the room. And she just kind of declines. She doesn't really want it because that's not how she wants to remember him. And he, asks if she's sure, and then Tony Shalhoub is like, "Hey, buddy." She said no, like, fuck off. So he fucks to his car, and he starts to listen to the tape himself, and he hears Katie's voice. So he is kind of shaken by that, and he looks up into his rearview mirror, and we're jump scared by Extra Crispy Mike for like 2 seconds, and he disappears, and Olin drives off, and the last shot of the movie we see is Ghost Mike smoking a cigarette. Katie calls to him, and he turns around and kind of fades as he walks towards her. So that was 1408. I will take my intermission now. When we come back, I will kind of give you my final thoughts on it, which aren't many, and we will start the Lazarus Effect. Woo! Alrighty. So I forgot to mention this in the beginning. I told myself I should probably remember, but whatever. This is actually going to be my last stream for a minute. Probably until next month. I am starting my new job soon, and that is exciting. Let me just turn down the volume there, Jesus. And so I'm going to be busy, and I just, I'm probably going to be streaming for like short bursts once a month for the foreseeable future. Just cause like I put a lot of research into these and I like doing things at my leisure. I also have my podcast that I'm supposed to be working on, like I said yesterday, or no, Sunday when I did Pan's Labyrinth. I should be working on it, but I'm a terrible procrastinator. But yeah, that's about it. We are now going to watch The Lazarus Effect as soon as I get out of this. Close window. No. Exit. Soundtrack by Twitch. Whoops.
Alcohol.
Sorry about that. Alright. So let's just get set up here. I'm still trying to figure out the best aspect ratio for me to use on these videos, because like the one I was using before stretched my face out so I looked like I had like 5 chins, and this one kind of I'm like squished, so I'll figure it out eventually. Ah. Hopefully my internet doesn't like stop me from watching it like it usually tries to. Come on. You know you want to. Oh, Mark Duplass is in this? That's cool. I like Mark Duplass. If you haven't watched it already, you should watch Creep 1 and 2. Those are unnerving movies, and he is so good in them. That was the first time I actually encountered him, and I was surprised to learn that he mostly did comedy. I was like, what? But he's so, like, scary. Yep, we're gonna be doing this. Okay, that's cool. Again, as usual, it is not wanting to load. I will try 3 times and then I will give up, as usual. Because I really wanted to watch this with you guys. I haven't seen this one. And usually I put on stuff that I've already seen and know is good. Or at least entertaining. Here we go. Science. Things are not looking up. Whatever they're doing. Since I missed like a minute of this. Piggy! Oh, poor Piggy. Alright, Piggy. I love pigs. They are so cute and smart. I just want one. Like, not one of the cute little, like, teacup piggies. I want a honkin' one. Like a how. And I will love it, and I will call it Babe. These are cool opening credits, at least. Like, I feel like science fiction movies, especially like in the early 2010s, I know this was made in 2015, they always had like science-y random like footage like this. It looks like the black tar stuff that they had in Alien Covenant. Ugh, fuck that movie. Why did none of these take place at like SUNY schools? Like, it's always Berkeley or Yale or Harvard. Like, just go to a state college. I'm asking you. State colleges need love too. Oh, Olivia Wilde, why is there so much drama around you? I never really thought that she was like a great actress. I think I first saw her in House, back when I watched House. Sarah Bolger. She was in The Tudors. But lately with the Don't Worry Darling stuff, like, she came into like public consciousness again. And, you know, Don't Worry Darling was terrible. But I guess the whole Harry Styles thing really bit her in the ass or whatever. God, he looks so young. Usually he looks kind of older and scruffy. That doesn't look like the Millennium Falcon. I don't even pretend to understand any of what they're saying. I'm very much a liberal arts major. This can only end well. I have that game, but it's not complete. They sold me one that doesn't have like half of the pieces, and I never got around to returning it. So now I have half of Settlers of Catan. I hear it's really fun, though. I'm more of a Card Against Humanity girl. Is that Donald Glover? Is that Evan Peters? What is going on? There's like decent actors in this. So what happened? What will happen? Oh, yeah. Of course. Workahol there. It always seems to be the female scientists who are like workaholics in these movies. Well, lately anyway, since women started being included in science fiction movies as non-love interests. For the longest time, I got this movie mixed up with Splice, which is so terrible. Like, don't bother watching that movie if you haven't seen it. Oh my god. That movie was wrong in so many ways. What the fuck? Why? Cheap jump scare. Sorry, hold on. I'm just getting an iced coffee before our McDonald's closes. I'm probably gonna pull an all-nighter just for fun. For fun, profit, and because I want to actually work on stuff that I can't during the day. Sweet. Taken care of. Why is it always dolls? At least she didn't catapult up out of bed. That's like one of my least favorite tropes. It's just so overused. I really need to clean my keyboard. Ugh. I want to be snuggled up by Mark Duplass. He kind of looks like one of my ex-boyfriends, and I found him very attractive. He was rather short. That's like a random rant that I'm gonna go on apropos of nothing. What is it with women who are obsessed with men being over 6 feet on dating apps? Like, why does it matter? Like, I'm 5'3", and most people are taller than me, but I really don't care if they're over 6 feet. Just have a decent personality. Looks really aren't that important to me. Yeah, it is Evan Peters. no, poor pupper. This is part of why I don't watch like medical fiction movies, is because usually animals are involved, and that makes me sad. Like, my least favorite horror trope is how they kill an animal or do something to it to show that the stakes are high. Like, kill people all you want, like children, women, men, NBs, doesn't matter to me. I am more than happy to watch, but once you kill a kitty or a pupper, I get very upset. God, my back has been killing me lately. I don't know why. It's like right in the middle of my back too. But luckily I'm seeing a chiropractor tomorrow. My nails are cracking because of how dry it is in my house. It's killing me. Is the dog gonna come back evil? Is this gonna be like a Pet Cemetery sort of thing? Jump scare. Called it. I'd be pretty pissed off too if I was denied the sweet release of death. How dare you bring me back? Oh, and his cataracts are healed. That's good. This can only go well. I'm telling you. Or you could give him back to his family and observe him. My leg is jiggling like crazy. I don't know why. I'm just feeling twitchy, I guess. Yeah, because we're on Twitch. Twitchy. Ugh. I apologize deeply. And a very good boy. Another philosophizing after bringing death into, like, human control. Sorry, I'm just chatting with my DoorDasher about how terrible the McDonald's is down here. It is so slow. I'm not starved for conversation or anything. And that's why I'm on Twitch. Poor Rocky looks so depressed. Oh my god. He did want the sweet release of death after all.
Do it. Do it, Rocky. Good boy. You know you want to, Rocky. Revenge.
Or just stare at her creepily. I guess that works too. That doesn't seem right. Me with my friends. Hell yeah, it produces DMT. I have my Fitbit Sense, and I'm still getting used to wearing it. Especially with this damn strap. It's Velcro. I don't know, I've just never really worn a watch. Let people believe stuff. It's rude. There's plenty of people who believe in the flat earth, and I'm not ruining that for them. Just kidding, I totally do. She's the one who dies and comes back, right? I guess she's gonna know soon enough then if there is such a thing as pearly gates and shit. This poor dog. I'm sorry. He just looks so sad. Rocky doesn't have the energy for extreme aggression. Rocky's just vibing. Hating life. Relatable. I forgot about how ugly e-cigarettes were back then. Not that they're much better now, but I don't know. I never really could get into vaping. That is goddamn rude. Kill him first, Rocky. Get him. Get him. Oh yeah, Evan Peters is totally doomed. He's a stoner, so they're usually doomed first. Brought to you by Blizzard. Also, why did they just let him smoke in the lab? Like, even vaping. And I assume that he's not vaping nicotine. Like, you'd think that a science lab doing serious science stuff would probably want their people to be sober. That's just me, though. What do I know? They're only creating medical technology.
Get him. Get him, Rocky. Bite his dick off. Get him. Good boy.
Teleporting dog. A liar. Maybe he's very resourceful. Tell him, Rocky. Man, this movie just goes for cheap downstairs, doesn't it? I'm enjoying our watch party of one, by the way, my viewer. Very enjoyable. Looks like Rocky has two moods, sad and angry. Angry sad. Of course not. Yeah, it's a private school, but it's not a religious private school. My God, this is taking forever for my coffee. That's why I keep looking over. I'm checking my phone to see their progress. And they're just waiting at the store. The worst McDonald's ever. Yeah, that's how it works. You're getting funding from these people. What's wrong with you? This isn't how academia works. Nitpicky, but whenever they show like university stuff in movies, I'm always like hypercritical because I grew up in academia. Academia is what I do with my life. And I'm just like, this is completely against how everything works. Like even watching the Netflix show The Chair, I found myself like a couple of times just being like, ew. That's fucking rude. I don't think they can do that, can they? Smirk. They didn't take Rocky. Oh, thank God he's on his way. I don't know, I'm kind of like enjoying this lipstick thing. I should wear my lipstick more often. Learn how to do it better. Dun dun dun. Ha ho. So far, I find this movie very boring. I was promised it would be bad, but I was thinking fun bad, not boring bad. When my food gets here, I'm probably just gonna end the watch party since no one's here. Haha, medium awareness. Oh, by the way, the next time that I stream, it's probably going to be In the Mouth of Madness, because that movie slaps. Might just do like a Sam Neill theme and do Event Horizon as well, and then Possessor. Alright, coffee's here. Fuck it. Okay. How do I end you? End watch party. Alright, well, I will wish you a good night, and I will see you next month, most likely. Bye.